Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I see many smiling faces out there, so this is going to be fun for me. So, I would like to begin by explaining what we're going to talk about this evening. As you know, the Potenza Hall is celebrating its 125th anniversary. And this is, thank you, a very special occasion. There are 37 Italian organizations in the state of Colorado, and our organization is the longest continuous lasting organization in the entire state. So that's quite an achievement. Thank you. The Potenza Lodge was organized originally to be a social, cultural organization. But when the men, by the way, the organization, Potenza Lodge, was all male, no women. Now, women were allowed to provide food, and of course, as you might guess, they were in charge of cooking, cleaning, and raising the children. Now, as you might suspect, a little male chauvinism crept in, but 50 years after the Potenza Lodge was founded, on October 1st, 1899, 50 years later, women were allowed to join the lodge. 50 years or so. And so we have a ladies' auxiliary, and Lisa Locken is our president. Frank Piercy is our president of the men's lodge, and they both do a wonderful job, and that's part of why we're alive and well today, because we have excellent leadership. And they have boards that support their efforts, and I and a friend of mine collect the money at the front door at all of the monthly meetings, and I want to salute the 35 to 40 people who come faithfully every month to attend the meetings and do the work of the lodge. Every organization has to have that core that's faithful and is there to do the work, and they are our worker bees. So we're doing fine, I'm happy to report, after 125 years. Okay, now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but the Potenza Lodge has a motto, and the letters are A, B, P. Does anyone know what those letters stand for? Amore. Amore is love, right? Okay. The next one is benevolenza, goodwill. And the last one is pace, peace. Now I have to say, in all honesty, we don't always demonstrate love, goodwill, and peace. After all, we are Italians. And we have emotional temperaments that sometimes flare up, right? We're sometimes in conflict with each other. But, like all good workers, we try to talk to each other, smooth out our differences, and move on. So that's another reason why we're still alive and well. We resolve the conflicts. Okay, now, here are some of the details of what happened in 1899. There was an influx of immigrants from Potenza, mostly young men, but they did not have much money, $5, $10, $15 with them, and they had to have a sponsor in order to come to Denver. And they would go straight from the boat, that means the dock in Ellis Island. They would be processed through Ellis Island, and then they would get on a train to Denver. So my dad reported to me, after doing this for 2 weeks, up and down, sleeping in the bows of the ship with his head on a potato sack. He was 14 years old. He got seasick, and my grandmother gave him a raw onion soaked in wine, and that settled his stomach. My Aunt Sue, who later became Sue Luprino, had a cold, and they were all fearful that they were never going to make it through customs because of her cold. They were afraid they'd all be sent back to Italy. But somehow my grandmother managed to disguise her cold symptoms, so she made it through Ellis Island. Okay, so on October 1st, 1899, the Potenza Lodge was formed, and 120 men came to fill out an application. Now these were Italians, but they weren't necessarily Potenzaites. Now the requirements are very strict to join the Potenza Lodge. Number one, you have to be a male. You have to be from Potenza. You have to have traced your lineage to your father, who had to be born in Potenza. Now women didn't count, so we don't care what they were. Yeah. The men had to be from Potenza. So they narrowed it down to 8, and those 8 men met in the basement of Miguel Notary, who was one of the 4 founding fathers. They met in his basement for several weeks, and then they graduated to a building on 32nd and Navajo, and from there they went to the Mount Carmel Parish Hall, and that's where they held their early meetings. Now the building we're in right now, beautiful building. For those of you who are around my age, I'm 84, and we remember when this was wall-to-wall building. The dance floor covered the whole floor, and this stage was all the way to the kitchen, all the way to the office. That's how big it was. And I have a picture of it here, which you won't be able to see because it'll be too small, but I'm going to put it on the table if you'd like to come and see what it looked like at Carnival in 1950. And there were all kinds of people sitting here in front. Now, at that event, I was 10 years old, and I'm in that picture. And the person sitting in front of me was Ralph Mancinelli, and he was 11 years old. What we did was entertain people. It was Carnivale time, and we had a good time. Everyone enjoyed themselves, and it became a place, not just a haven for young men who were migrating from Italy, but the families who settled here in North Denver made it a second home because they felt comfortable here. When you came to the Potenza Lodge, there were people there who spoke your language, who could help you with job opportunities, housing, would help you find an attorney, an insurance man, whatever you needed. And guess what? Maybe you were looking for a partner. So, how many of you know the meaning of this word? Mushata. Wow, 6 hands, okay. Mushata means matchmaking. So, here's what would happen. One man would say to another man, "Hey, Gino, you have got a son, I got a daughter. Let's get together and make a mashada. Then we're going to be kumbadis. You're going to be part of my family, I'm going to be part of your family. Let's get going, bring them over here, and then make a mashada." And that is the way many people got together and were married back in those days. And Mushada was alive and well. Now by 1901, there were 200 people in the Potenza Lodge, 200 men. And they decided by 1939 that they should build their own place and stop meeting in places all over North Denver. So, thus, you see what happened in 1939 to 41? This beautiful building was built. And the early Italians did not trust the banks, so a man named Angelo Stone said, I will lend you the money, and you can pay me back later. And that's what they did. Okay, so this place was built, and the Potenzas had their own hall, which none of the other Italian organizations had. Now this is a real luxury to have your own hall, and we got it. We've had it for 83 years. Yeah, so that's an achievement. Okay, now, membership was restricted, that's true. But the Italian culture focuses on 3 F's. Now let's see if you all know what the 3 F's of the Italian culture are. Family, faith, and food. So we just did. Family, faith, and food are the 3 F's of the Italian culture. Always has been, always will be. We love food, we love to eat. That's what we're doing. Okay. Now, women decided they wanted a voice in the lodge. Now, after 50 years, it took a little while to get there, didn't it? But on June 17, 1949, the women formed their own auxiliary, and there were 25 of them. And today we have 80 women in the auxiliary on our records. Of course, with most organizations today, you all know this is true also, about 1/3 of whoever is on your registration comes to all the meetings and does the work. So that's where we are too. That's why I reference the 35 to 40 people who come here every month. They're our worker bees. Yes. Okay. Now, do we have male domination or male chauvinism here today? I say absolutely not. I think the Potenza Lodge has a wonderful ratio of men to women, and I joined myself in October of 2005. It was 19 years ago. I just finished my teaching career, and I joined the lodge because I've been here since I was 7 years old. And I remember both my parents were lifelong members of the Potenza Lodge. So as a 7-year-old, I remember sitting out there, and who was sitting up here as Santa Claus? Mike Leprino Sr., who is my uncle, and he was a rotund man, and we're keeping up the family tradition because Dan Pergola here is going to be our Santa Claus in this year's Christmas party for the kids. So we're keeping up the tradition of the family supplying Santa Claus to the Potenza Lodge. So we got together and moved along with all of the activities and programs and processes, and now what we have are people who work together, the men and the women. When the chips are down and it's time for St. Rocco's Feast, which is the biggest event of the year, it's our biggest fundraiser, we work in harmony and we work well. And I think this year we netted about $88,000. So we did very well. Now, I'd like to talk to you about this building. Built in 39 to 41, but renovated from 65 to 68. So remember I told you earlier, this used to be a giant dance floor. This used to be a huge stage. Now, there's a very important person here that I'm going to ask to come out, and her name is Kay Ponzio. Mary, are you there?
Okay.
She's hiding because I asked her to come when I talked about, is she coming? See if you can drag her out here. Very cool. Come on up here, Kate. I think those of us who know Kate can call her the beating heart of the Potenza Lodge. I've had this lodge without her. She's thoughtful, she's loving, she's generous, she's always there no matter what you want or what you need. Yes.
I'm very blessed to be here.
Yes. And here's what her children tell her. This is her real home. She just drops in at the place in Arvada once in a while to check in. I told you that we work well together, so here's proof. 2 years ago, the Potenza Lodge won this award given by the Bravo Award Group. And it says, the People's Choice St. Rocco's Feast Potenza Lodge Best Cultural Gathering of the Year, Potenza Lodge. So indeed we do work well together. Okay, now, you all can answer these questions. Would you say that Italians are joyful people?
Yes.
Yes. All right, what do we enjoy doing? What do we say? Sing and dance, eat and drink. We like to laugh. And then I'm hearing about gambling and drinking and a few vices sprinkled in. So we like to do that too. Okay, so do you have an emotional attachment to the Potenza Lodge? I think many of you do. And you probably have had similar experiences that I have. You've probably been here for a very long time and maybe even as young children. So you feel that this is like a second home or part of your family. So that emotional attachment is important. Now, that good nature is important to our families, it's important to our friends, it's important to our morale. And what's the basic human need for all of us? We all need to be comforted and we need to be supported. And that's what happens here. You get comfort and support from your fellow members. And it's very, very satisfying, it's confidence building, and it makes you happy. So if you haven't joined the Potenza Lodge, consider doing it. It's a good organization. Okay, now, any organization needs young people. We have people such as Haley Locken, whom you saw serving dinner tonight. She is the daughter of Lisa and Mike Locken, Lance Locken, Lisa, her husband Mike, her mother Terry Ashbury. The whole family are a positive force on this lodge. Believe me, they work hard, every one of them. And they're so important to all of us. Another reason why we're a healthy organization now is the Locken family, and Frank and his family, and their boards of director and the worker bees. So it's a joint effort. Okay, now, I personally have found this place to be of comfort and support to me. And I love coming here, I love being with the people, I love doing things here, and I will until I'm no longer alive. And so I want you to join us and think about coming here and joining the lodge and become part of us. How else can we best honor a 125-year anniversary than to have more people join us? Okay. So, In conclusion, this is a book written by Ralph Mancinelli. This is the Bible of the Potenza life. Ralph spent 20 years of his life researching this book. Finally, it was published in 2014. We sold about 250 copies of it. It cost $25. It's still available. If you want one, see me and I'll arrange to get it for you. And in it, he wrote a conclusion, the last page, because Virginia Corbin and I helped him write it, so he wrote 90%, she and I wrote about 10%. But I'm going to read a few words what he said. Here's Ralph's conclusion at the end of his book. The Italian people who came to Denver from Potenza, Italy, produced for this country doctors, lawyers, educators, priests, nuns, and politicians. They produced some of the most successful and powerful business people in the state and in our country. People who eventually became millionaires and billionaires. They did this without the help of welfare, food stamps, Section 8, housing, or Medicaid. They did it on their own. And my words of conclusion are, our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents were our role models for that which is inherently best about the Italian culture. Those traits are hard work, devotion, personal sacrifice, kindness, generosity, and love. May we carry on with success into the future. Thank you. Would anyone like to come up? This is open mic time. Come up and tell us some of your Potenza love. Now, here comes a very enthusiastic person.